In the Wright case, we have another example of the words the defendant speaks being used to show motive. And in this case, it simply was, I'm going to kill you. The defendant has a fight with his estranged girlfriend in a bar. Uh, she runs out of the bar. He chases her and he beats her up. And at that point, he says, I'm going to kill you. She runs across the street. He follows her and then he stabs her with a knife in the abdomen. Now, in this case, you've got not only the words, you also have, a deadly weapon, a knife, being used against a vital part of the body. The court does not describe that as being a part of the analysis in this case. The court only looks to the existence of one of those factors in Elliott, the evidence of motive, the fact that the defendant says, I'm going to kill you. So they don't really look at the method, the fact that the stab occurs in a vital organ, and certainly there's no preparation for this. I mean, this happens very much. It seems like in the heat of the moment. Clearly, there's anger, but one of the things that I think this case illustrates to you very well is while you don't want to pin a medal on this guy, and while you don't want to ever turn him loose, or not for some time, if what we are really trying to do is isolate the people who thought about killing, if premeditation and deliberation truly are what make one person worse than the other when that person takes a life unlawfully, what is it about this defendant Wright that makes him so incredibly awful? Now, we don't like him. I don't want to suggest that. But if we're going to differentiate between killers who premeditated and killers who don't, this guy was terrible. He engages in domestic abuse, very awful stuff to the point of killing her. He stabs her. No question about all of that. But this case really ought to show you that if we have a system of hierarchy where some crimes are punished more than some homicides are punished more than others, and if that differentiation is going to be about entirely how thoroughly the person thought about it, how thoroughly the person was aware that their actions would cause death, and to differentiate in Pennsylvania between third-degree murder and first-degree murder, whether there was deliberation. This deliberation was formed very quickly. And of course, the court in this case says it can be. This court specifically mentions that deliberation can be formed in a short period of time, and it was. So then how do we then go about deciding which side of the line these things fall on? The fact that in the heat of the moment he says, I plan to kill you, what if he never said that? What if he just acted upon it? Those words are entirely what the court rests its opinion on. So you can see in this Wright case, as awful as Wright is, that the method by which we're differentiating degrees of homicide is going to leave a lot of room for interpretation, because if this is enough, what else will fit into that category? What other things will be sufficient to show that in a short period of time, the defendant consciously chose to kill and acted on it? And beyond that, how many people in fights say they're going to kill and mean that, metaphorically and not literally? Though here he actually did, and so, we then conclude that he did mean it literally, and probably he did even when he uttered the phrase. Or at least he was acting upon something very consistent with his stated intent. But this is not a lot of deliberation. This is not a lot of contemplation. And this case will then show you how difficult it's going to be for juries to try to decide in other cases whether in fact the evidence has shown enough for premeditation and deliberation. When we looked at the Fitzgerald case, no question, you had this guy who's having an affair, takes there's a life insurance policy on his wife. He Googles how long the money will stay stay tied up if there's a if the will is if the estate is contested, or if there's concern that the victim was murdered, and and then there's that long period of strangulation. Here there's a single stab wound that follows a fight. The court here says, because he utters the phrase, "I'm going to kill you," that then takes it from a crime for which he could get out of jail at some point, and would, if he lived long enough, get out of jail, to one in which this defendant will never emerge from the jail because he's guilty of first-degree murder. There will be a lot more cases that we'll either look at in this class, or that you'll see in real life, where you'll really wonder which side of the line a jury should conclude the defendant falls under, because so much stuff the court holds a jury could reasonably find is first-degree murder, even though there's very little evidence of contemplation.